So Katie, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. We like to start a bit of introduction, so if you could go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Katie Pont, recently married, and my husband just raised his ring finger to me across the table.
Congratulations. If I had a champagne glass, I would toast it to you.
Thank you very
Congratulations.
much. Thank you. So I am 30 years old and I live in Massachusetts with my husband, our little quarantine kitty, and my stepdaughter, Ava. She's 11.
Oh, that's wonderful. And quarantine kitty, what's the kitty's name?
Her name is Kona.
Kona. Oh, like the coffee or like
Yes.
the island?
Yep.
Oh. And I, my family and I, we used to live in Massachusetts. We lived in Cambridge near Boston for 5 years. So.
Oh, awesome. We're in New Bedford, so about an hour south of Boston.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I should say I lived in Somerville since you know the area better. But no, yeah. Anyway, you know it, but not everyone does. Wonderful, wonderful. And so, how has the pandemic treated you all?
It's been a journey. So I actually lost my job in the beginning of the pandemic. I used to work for a leather handbag designer, and obviously nobody's buying leather handbags in the middle of the pandemic. So they let a lot of their staff go. And then we actually postponed our wedding in the middle of the pandemic as well, due to the pandemic. So that stunk. And then I found out I had breast cancer. So it was a rough year for us.
You know, and that's the thing. Life happens, the pandemic happens, certainly illness happens. And we'll start to talk a bit about that. So it's the middle of pandemic, there's a lot going on. You're getting used to the new world, the job situation happens. Is that about the time where you started to feel ill or have a symptom?
So it was about 6 months after the pandemic started. It was just a couple days after my 30th birthday, and I was drying my hair, getting out of the shower, and I noticed a divot in my breast when I had my arms above my head drying my hair. And I immediately called my then fiance into the room and said, "Hey, is this normally like this? What's going on? How long has this been like this?" And to be honest, I don't even remember his response. I think he told me that oh, that looks kind of weird, but no big deal. I felt hard as a rock lump, and I was pretty concerned. My gut just told me something was wrong, that this was not normal. And so my stepmother is a nurse, and I saw her a few days later for my birthday celebration. And I asked her to look at it, feel it. And she said, "Oh, that's definitely kind of weird. Maybe it has something to do with your menstrual cycle. Keep an eye on it for a week or so. And if nothing resolves, then contact your doctor about it." So I was immediately super alert to it. And about a week later, it had not gone away. So I contacted my doctor through my chart. And because of the pandemic, a lot of doctors weren't seeing patients in the office. So I sent them a message and I said, "Hey, I felt this lump. It's very strange. It's hard as a rock. It's pretty large. Could you look at it?" And she responded back and literally had me in there the next day, which was amazing. I'm forever thankful that she listened to me and took my concerns seriously. And she helped me with my diagnosis. So she had me in there the next day. She felt it. She said, "Yeah, it's a little concerning, but it could be totally something innocent called a fibroadenoma." So I immediately Googled it. Basically a non-cancerous lump that can be removed in surgery, but it's non-cancerous, so it should be fine. She sent me for an ultrasound, and so I went, I think, a couple of days later for a breast ultrasound. That came back inconclusive. They said, "You have very dense breast tissue, but there is this one area here that's very concerning to us. We're going to have you do a mammogram as well." The mammogram also came back inconclusive. So they had me do a breast biopsy. Not very pleasant. They literally stick a needle into your breast and pull tissue out of it. So a couple weeks after that, on October
And are you
14th,
anesthetized at all for that
no,
procedure?
they used a local numbing agent similar to when you get like your wisdom teeth out and stuff like that. And the first couple of pricks that he did, you could hear it kind of sounded like an ear piercing gun. And so I could hear it, but I could not feel it. But then one of them, he went a lot deeper than the numbing agent went. And I felt it through my entire core. It was crazy.
Oh,
But, I mean, in the grand scheme of things now, that was probably, the least of my pain. It was confirmed about a week later, October 14th, 2020, I got the call. Unfortunately, we did find cancer in your right breast. It rocked me. A very emotional couple of days. We found out that it was about a 7-centimeter tumor, which is very large. And they told me it was stage 1, but I think it was more like stage 2 because it was also in my lymph nodes. So I went through chemotherapy first before surgery to try to help shrink the tumor. So I did 6 rounds of a very common chemo cocktail for breast cancer called TCHP, and I did not tolerate it very well. I don't think so anyway. After my first session, I ended up in the hospital with colitis for 6 days. It was just very hard on my GI system in general. And then after my 4th cycle, I got COVID as well in January. So then I had to be treated for COVID in addition to the chemo. So that was a tough point. But I finished
and
chemo on March.
you had both the COVID symptoms. Was it a severe case of COVID?
It was not severe at all. Pretty mild, actually. All I really had was chest congestion and then loss of smell. They had me admitted to the hospital and they treated me for it with remdesivir just as a precautionary measure, just because my chemo put me in an immune compromised state. So they wanted to be, on the safe side. Let's, treat you for it. I didn't know at the time when they started the treatment that it was a 5-day treatment. So I was admitted for just about an entire week. So that stunk, but it resolved pretty quickly. And then I finished chemo on March 2nd. I had a bilateral mastectomy on April 13th. Here's where the complications begin, and this is fun.
Before you get there,
Oh, sure.
it's a lot to process, right? Sort of the diagnosis. The idea of going on to chemo is scary for many. Could you talk about sort of, your experience and how you mentally processed and who you reached out to and who maybe supported you through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband has been my biggest supporter throughout this entire journey, and my family, my parents, my sister, my best friends, they have been incredible throughout this entire journey. I really struggled mentally with the fact that I needed chemo. I really broke down when I found that news out. And not just because you're literally pumping poison into your body. For me, it was my hair. I was so attached to my hair, and it was a part of me. It helped make me feel feminine. It was part of my identity. And the thought of losing my hair just seemed traumatizing to me. But my husband and I actually ended up getting married 2.5 weeks after my first chemo. My hair had really started to fall out the few days right before the wedding. And I ended up having to wear my wig for the wedding because my hair was just too far gone. And we shaved my head the next day, and it was kind of empowering. Right when he first shaved it, I remember I was sitting on the ledge of the tub and he had the buzzers and he was buzzing my head, and I kept asking him, I said, "Is my head round?" I'm like, "Please tell me that I have a nice shaped head." And, looking in the mirror for the first time after that, emotional, but it was kind of empowering that I took that step instead of just letting all my hair fall out. I shaved it. I was, we were the ones who, made that step. And it makes you really think about it like, your hair is just your hair. And I can say that now in retrospect. As hard as as hard as it was leading up to that decision, it really is just your hair. And I'm still me. I still rock cute headbands, and a lot of times I didn't even bother wearing my wig when I went out and about because it felt like I was masking who I really was. I might be sick and I might have no hair, but I'm still Katie, and I'm still strong and lively and enthusiastic about everything. So that was a big emotional but also really empowering time.
Yeah, and it's incredible to me. You found strength in something that you were incredibly attached to, and you had viewed previously as part of your identity. But I can also see your point very clearly. You took that decision, you made the choice, and it was yours, not the illness. And that's it's a great sentiment. It's a great sentiment.
Yeah.
The bilateral mastectomy. Talk about that conversation with your doctor. How did that go, and what were sort of the considerations that she or he presented to you?
So, because my cancer spread all throughout my right breast and up against my chest wall and all the way out through my nipple, a lumpectomy was not really an option for me. I know it is for a lot of women who just have the tumor, but my cancer had spread all throughout my breast. So basically, it was a decision between a single mastectomy and a double mastectomy. Right from the get-go, right when I was diagnosed, my immediate gut instinct was do a double mastectomy. Get rid of them. They're poisonous to me at this point. I don't want to take my right breast and then 5 years, a year down the line, I have to do this all over again with my left breast. My thought process was the less breast tissue that I have, the less chance for recurrence that this comes back. So it was kind of a no-brainer to me. I know a lot of people really struggle with that decision, but for me, it was so easy.
Sure. And so you made the choice. You went through the mastectomy. What was the procedure like and the recovery like for you?
So it honestly was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I went in. A lot of the headache was just coordinating beforehand, picking out my surgeon. I ended up going with Dana-Farber up in Boston. They were absolutely incredible. The doctors there blew me away with their treatment plan and with their surgery recovery as well. And so I ended up going up there, and, I had to take a COVID test before the surgery and go over an extensive background of my medical history beforehand. So just a lot of appointments in the weeks leading up to it. But I had really gained back quite a bit of my strength after chemo. And I think that's why they usually wait like 4 to 6 weeks after chemo ends to do your surgery. And I think that's why, because I felt pretty strong, given the circumstances. So my surgery was on April 13th. I stayed one night overnight in the hospital, and my father actually came to visit me that night, and I was in high spirits. I felt good. I could move. I was already itching to get up and go for a walk because I knew that was extremely important in your road to recovery, is getting up and getting moving. So, there were definitely some limitations. I couldn't reach my arms all the way above my head because of the drains. I couldn't reach really far out to the side to grab anything. But for the most part, I did okay, I think. So I came home the next day. My husband actually got me a little bell for in case I needed him for water refills or anything like that. And I think I rang it like twice, and that was it.
You
So
should keep the bell though. That's something you should just have around. It sounds
oh,
great.
it's up on a shelf. It's
Oh,
um
yeah.
it's a little memento now,
Well,
but
maybe on birthdays or wedding anniversaries, you can break it
ring
out.
the bell. Yeah. On my cancer anniversary, I can ring it every year. Like I survived another year, but I did pretty well. So they ended up finding 2 micro-mets in my lymph nodes after the surgery. So I ended up having to do another surgery to do a full axillary node dissection where they removed the rest of my lymph nodes from that right side. That surgery caused me to develop a seroma, which is like a pocket of fluid on top of my right tissue expander. So that was kind of crazy. I had to have an emergency surgery to place another drain. Actually, just got that drain taken out last week after 5 weeks. But we're plugging along. I should be starting radiation at the end of July. So I'm still very much in the middle of active treatment, but I feel stronger and stronger every day.
No, that's incredible. And so, you're going through so the micromets. When you found that out, how did you feel? How did you process?
I was
And then
devastated.
the removal of more lymph nodes. I actually don't know what the lymph nodes do, and you probably do in more detail than I do. Could you describe to folks what that entails?
Yeah, absolutely. So your lymph nodes, your lymphatic system is all throughout your body, and it helps drain fluids from your extremities, basically. So anytime you have an infection, whether small or large, your lymph nodes are what helps pull that fluid in and circulates it around so that your body can, absorb it and fight it. With the removal of all of your lymph nodes from your axillary, it leaves your right arm basically really susceptible to infection. And if you do get excess fluid in that arm, you can develop what's called lymphedema, which is an intense swelling of that extremity. So I'm on high alert now for any swelling or infection or cuts or anything like that on that side. It was a really low blow when I found out that I had cancer in the lymph nodes, because that meant that I needed radiation, which if they did not find it in the lymph nodes, I would not have needed radiation, and I would not have needed the additional chemo that I'm doing right now as well. It is preventative chemo, so it's, just to prevent a recurrence, to get any tiny little cancer cells that were not taken out during surgery. But it really extended my journey. I thought that I was almost done. Surgery was the last of it. And then now I'm finding out that I'll be on chemo until probably next spring. So it stinks. It'll end up being like a year and a half, 2 years by the time I'm done with this journey. But, I'm here, I'm alive, and that's something to be celebrated. You know, every single day I wake up and I'm here, and a lot of cancer patients can't say that. I'm still able to work full time. I am still able to go on adventures with my family, go sightseeing, go on vacations, and it really helps you, you stop taking life for granted. And it's kind of crazy, it puts your life in perspective. It flipped my world upside down, but it has taught me a lot. It's taught me how strong I am, and, you know, just how much the little things matter.
And what are some of those little things that you've started to appreciate more?
Just daily life with my husband, with my stepdaughter, laughing. I try to laugh every day. And, some days are harder than others. And sometimes I'll have a little pity party when I get bad news, but I dust myself off and I remind myself that I'm still here and, I have a long life ahead of me. I want to make a difference in people's lives. And I've shared my journey a lot with friends, families, acquaintances, because I feel compelled to share this information and share all the knowledge that I've learned. Because if I can help one person with early detection of this, I will feel like this happened to me for a reason, you know?
Yeah, and I was going to say that you caught it as early as you did
Right.
is a blessing. A year or two later, allowing it to grow without treatment could have been a lot more difficult situation for you, your family, your husband, your stepdaughter. So that is the blessing for sure. And the spirit that you bring to your journey. You are facing another year of chemo. You have radiation on the horizon. But speaking to you now, I see strength. I see confidence. I see happiness in spite of all these things that you are living through.
Right.
So I'm conscious that you have a meeting in 3 minutes.
Yes.
So I would like to sort of ask you sort of the advice, right? What advice do you have for others? And what I would also say is love to catch up in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years.
I would love
Just
that.
check
Yeah.
in. And the story continues, right?
Right.
And so, but yes, for now, um, what advice do you have?
I would say, concentrate on your support system, however big or small that is, and lean on them when you need them. I would also say to really take advantage of the little things in life. Go for a walk by the beach and just look at the leaves changing color in the fall and, appreciate all that this world has to offer, because you don't know, how good it is until some of that stuff gets taken away from you. And really wake up every day and, remind yourself that you're alive and you're here and you're fighting. Never lose that drive. I think it's important to have a why. Why are you fighting? So for me, it's my future with my husband. Uh, we want to have kids someday. So, my future children, I want to be able to see my stepdaughter grow up, and I want to see her get married and graduate high school. And, to me, I would never want to lay down and let it take over my body, because I have so many more things that I want to accomplish in life. And if you just remind yourself of that, whether mentally or in a journal, it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference to your mindset, I think.
Your why, you're living your purpose by sharing your journey. Your
Right.
stepdaughter has a wonderful role model in you. And now if she wants to know, right, sort of what are you going through? How are you managing? You have a
She's
video now.
exactly. And she's been, she's 11, so she is interested in the journey, and we've been really truthful with her about it and honest. And I think that it will help her learn just how much I've been through, not only for myself and my future, but for her future as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you so much, Katie. Great to meet you. Thank you for sharing your journey. Certainly inspired. It's going to make my day 1,000,000% better just from having heard your journey. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And enjoy the rest of your day, and really do appreciate you taking the time. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.